If you own a condo in South Florida, there are a few things happening right now that could directly affect what your unit is worth. And most people, they don't even realize it yet. And what's interesting is, it's not just one thing, it's a combination of smaller shifts that together are starting to change how condos are bought, sold, and even perceived by buyers. And I've been seeing this more and more in real estate conversations with my clients. I had someone call me and say, my neighbor sold last year for this number. I don't understand why I'm not getting the same activity. And honestly, that question comes up a lot right now because on the surface, it feels like the market should be doing the same thing. But when you actually break it down, you start to see where things are different. A couple of years ago, especially during the pandemic, condos were moving very fast. Buyers were making quick decisions, inventory was low, and there was a sense of urgency. If something looked good and was priced reasonably, it didn't sit. And what happens is people start to anchor to that experience. They remember how quickly things were moving. They remember what prices looked like. And naturally, they expect the same environment to still be there. But today, it's a different kind of market. Not a bad market, just a more detailed one. There's more inventory, buyers have more options, and because of that, they're taking more time to evaluate everything. And I want to emphasize that point because it's important. Buyers haven't disappeared. They're still there. They're just behaving differently. I had a showing recently where the buyer loved the unit. There was nothing wrong with it. Good layout, good condition, good building. But instead of making a decision right away, they said, let's go see a few more and come back. That sentence right there, you didn't hear as much a couple years ago. And that's where a lot of the shift starts. It's not that buyers don't like the property. Now they feel like they have time to decide. Now, on top of that, you have another layer, which is regulation. After everything that happened with Surfside, there have been changes to how condo buildings are evaluated and maintained. So buyers are no longer just looking at the unit itself. They're looking at the building as a whole. They're asking questions like, is this building financially stable? Are reserves properly funded? Are there upcoming repairs or assessments? And I've seen situations where a buyer is fully ready to move forward and then they review the building details and suddenly they pause. Not because the unit changed, but because their understanding of the full picture changed. And that's something a lot of sellers don't initially account for because from their perspective, nothing about their unit has changed. But from the buyer's perspective, the level of evaluation has changed. Then you add in association fees. This is another big one. We're seeing association costs increase in a lot of buildings, and in some cases, there are also special assessments. So buyers are no longer just asking, what's the purchase price? They're asking, what does it actually cost me to live here every month? And I had a buyer recently comparing two condos in the same general price range. One was slightly cheaper, the other was a little bit more expensive. But once we broke down the monthly costs, including association and estimated insurance, the cheaper one was actually the more expensive one long term. And that completely changed how they looked at the property. So now buyers are thinking in a more complete way. It's not just price, but total cost, building condition, and future risk. And this leads into something that's probably the biggest shift of all, which is the mindset. Buyers are more cautious, they're more informed, and they're more selective. They're not rushing into deals. They're not feeling pressured in the same way. And they're very comfortable walking away if something doesn't feel right. And that doesn't mean something is wrong with your condo. It just means the buyer's process has changed. Another thing I'm seeing is condos are now being compared differently. In certain price points, buyers are starting to ask, do I want a condo with high association fees and potential assessments? Or do I want a townhouse or even a small house? That comparison is happening more often now. And it's something that didn't come up as frequently before. So condos are no longer just competing with other condos. They're competing with different types of properties. And when you put all of this together, you start to see why things are different. It's not one big dramatic change. It's multiple smaller shifts happening all at the same time. So what does this actually mean if you're thinking about selling? It means the approach matters more now. Pricing needs to be realistic from the beginning because buyers will recognize quickly if something feels off. Preparation matters more. Having clarity around your building, your fees, and your situation makes a huge difference. And expectations need to be aligned with today's market, not what happened a couple years ago. Because condos are still selling. That hasn't changed. But they're selling to buyers who are paying attention to more details and making more intentional decisions. And when you understand that, you can position yourself much more effectively. If you're curious about your specific building or what your condo might realistically sell for in today's market, feel free to reach out. Happy to walk through it with you. And if you want to stay updated on what's actually happening in the South Florida market, make sure you're following along.